Three strikes and still beating. I am AK Tyagaraaj. I woke up the next morning, not sure how many days had passed. Even the constant beeping of machines, blood draws, and diagnostics in the middle of the night hadn't stirred me. I guess propofol trumps morphine. The fluorescent lights hummed about me like a low, persistent prayer. The air smelled like antiseptic, plastic tubing, and something vaguely metallic. Hospital smell, sterile, but soaked in memory. A new doctor entered the room. He introduced himself as the cardiac electrophysiologist, also known as an EP, the guy who specializes in the electrical activity of the heart. I was collecting heart doctors like stamps. I had my primary cardiologist, the plumbing doc, another one for my valve, and now a new one, the electrician. He had a calm, amicable demeanor, the kind of calm that doesn't come from indifference, but from deep expertise, which is exactly what you want in someone whose job is to restart your heart. As he stood beside me, clipboard in hand, I could hear the soft hiss of oxygen and the rhythmic beep of my monitor syncing with my pulse. He told me, "You had a cardiac arrest. I can't let you leave the hospital without an ICD. It's a defibrillator device implanted in the chest to detect and correct any future electrical failures." I was like, fucking great. Now I'm going to be like an android, wired up, connected to the matrix. I still didn't understand what it was. Can you blame me? I had just flatlined and was heavily drugged. These things are hard enough to understand even when you're fully alert and sober. I nodded as if I understood. I didn't. And honestly, I didn't care. Do whatever you want. He said the next day was Easter Sunday, and he really wanted to go to church and brunch with his family. So he asked if he could schedule the surgery for Monday. This man literally rewires human hearts, and here he was asking if I was free on Monday. What option did I have? Tell him he couldn't go to church with his family? Besides, one more day of propofol wasn't a bad proposition. We were actually planning to go to church on Easter as a family. Brunch too, with my younger daughter's best friend's family. No chance of that now. At least let the doctor enjoy his Sunday. As someone raised in the Christian faith, I couldn't help but notice something kind of bizarre. Jesus died on Good Friday and rose on Easter Sunday. I apparently, sort of, died on Maundy Thursday and came back to life on Good Friday. I'm not making any divine comparisons here, but the timing. Let's just say Easter hit differently this year. This Easter Sunday, I would not be drinking cocktails, but I'd be infused with a cocktail of drugs through my IV. Salute! By the way, why are cocktails called cocktails? I had to Google that once I got out of the hospital. Then I zonked out again. As I drifted in and out of consciousness, I remember thinking, they're talking about implanting hardware in my chest. Like I am some kind of faulty robot getting a firmware update. But there was comfort too, a quiet clarity. Someone was planning to keep me alive. While I was out, the electrophysiologist spoke with my wife. He explained that there were several ICD device options on the market, each with its own pros and cons. While he had recommendations, the final decision was ultimately ours. Of course, I was out of the decision making process, even though the device was going inside me for obvious reasons. She nervously joked, "Is this like going to Best Buy and picking a laptop with certain specs?" She was overwhelmed. How was she supposed to pick something like this? She wasn't a medical professional, and this was literally a matter of life and death. The doctor smiled and calmly walked her through a few devices he recommended. Then he said goodbye. I'm sure he had a few more hearts to save before Easter brunch. My wife had the presence of mind to call her cousin, a doctor with an extensive network in Boston. She told him the situation. He consoled her first and said everything will be all right, then got to work. He called a few cardiologists in his network and asked for their opinion on the best ICD for my situation. Not only what works, but what's least intrusive and unlikely to impact day to day life. Within a couple of hours, the decision was made, narrowed down to one device. Her cousin called back and told her to go with it. So that's how the perfect ICD was chosen. Thanks to my wife and what felt like half the cardiologist on the eastern seaboard. This unconscious bloke who didn't even know he was in the running for new hardware was now a human robot hybrid. I must have been unconscious through most of Saturday. I vaguely remember the voices of my daughters. They must have come to visit me again. I even wondered who was taking care of them while my wife had basically made the hospital her second home. She told me her aunt, who had come to visit her son, was staying with them. Some relief, family support when least expected. Sometimes small miracles happen. Sunday rolled around. I think a few friends and neighbors visited me. It all blurred together. My daughter's friend's family, the ones we were supposed to join for Easter brunch, offered to take my daughters instead. The dad even came to the hospital room to see me, then picked up the girls. At least they got to escape the chaos for a couple of hours. A break from the machines, the fear, the not knowing, a little slice of normal. In my groggy state, I told him to get me some cocktails to go, to supplement my propofol. Pretty sure I thought I was in a bar, or heaven, or both. I could almost hear jazz playing in the background, something smoky and smooth, the kind of music you'd sip something strong to. Only I was sipping saline and sedatives. Not exactly shaken, not stirred, just straight up neat. My Toastmasters friend came to visit me. He said, "Roll Tide, roll. We'll watch an Alabama game this season." Later, I would learn from my wife that he had been in the hospital with her all of Friday and Saturday. I didn't even know him that well, but he took it upon himself to be there for me, for her. My college buddies swung by too, tried to make some silly jokes from our college days to cheer me up. Not sure if it landed, but they took my wife out for coffee, gave her a much needed break. Monday came and they told me I was going to be taken to the OR. Pretty much everything after that was a blur. They knocked me out cold. The doctor implanted the device. I was brought back to the ICU, my home away from home. I should make it my man cave. set up a big screen TV. They already had drugs there, so the only thing you had to bring is booze. But this time, when I woke up to the sound of beeping machines and the low hum of HVAC, I felt different. Not just groggy or bruised, but aware. There was something new inside me, a spark plug. Also, they gave me the morphine button for pain. I guess I had been downgraded from propofol. The next 24 hours were a blur of blood draws, EKGs, morphine, meds, disorientation, and nurses gently bossing me around. Not sure if it was Tuesday or Wednesday, but the electrophysiologist cleared me for discharge. It was a familiar routine right now. Change out of the hospital gown into street clothes, get wheeled out in a chair, meet my wife at the curb, drive home on a familiar route, wondering what the hell just happened. Except this time, I had a $50,000 medical contraption stitched into my chest. A late gift for my 50th birthday. What would life be like, not knowing when this device might fire? I was about to find out. If this story gave you a little spark, rate it, review it, pass it on. Beaten by life, still beating.